Welcome back, everybody. This Week in America, website thisweekinamerica.us. Great to have you with us on the program today. Our special guest, as mentioned, is Skipi Lundquist Smoot, Ph.D., a licensed clinical psychologist and business consultant. She's the niece of McDonald's founder Ray Kroc. In fact, Dr. Smoot is a former owner-operator of 3 successful McDonald's restaurants in California. She's the clinical director of Psychological Decisions and Career Ambitions Unlimited. And she's the author of the new book that we're talking about in the program today. The book is called Maturation, the Adult Paradigm, the Missing Link for Resolution of Anxiety. And Dr. Smoot joins us on This Week in America. Doctor, welcome to the program. Great to have you with us.
Well, thank you very much. I love being here.
Well, it's going to be a fun conversation, and we'll start talking about your interest in psychology, who you exactly are. You've been doing this for a number of years, and I mentioned the relationship with Ray Kroc, the fact that you were successful in business operating the McDonald's franchises. How did you become interested in psychology and decide to make the change from being in the restaurant business to helping people?
Well, I became a psychologist. I became interested in psychology because my mother was mentally ill. When she was 43 years old, her identical twin died. And my mother became psychotic. And I had never even been to college at that time, and it really scared me. And I started studying psychology, and it was so interesting to me that I realized that it would help everybody figure out what they could do to make themselves happier. As a result of my own psychotherapy, I eventually I went to marriage counseling, in fact, and after 3 years in marriage counseling, I realized that I shouldn't have married the man I was married to the first time. So psychotherapy saved my life. It made me realize why I could be a happy adult woman. And I sold my 3 McDonald's restaurants to put together enough money so that I could go to school and get a PhD. It takes 10 years. So 10 years in college was paid for by the McDonald's franchises that I sold.
It's a lot of Big Macs, and it's paid off. One of the results is the new book by Dr. Smoot, which is Maturation, the Adult Paradigm, the Missing Link for Resolution of Anxiety. And you were able, and maybe it's because you had real-life experience when you decided to go back to school. You had true real-life experience from a business standpoint, from a relational standpoint, and you brought a fresh perspective, which is what you talk about in the book Maturation. Talk about that fresh perspective, the approach that you brought, and how successful this has been in dealing with people.
Yes, that's true. I developed my theory. After I got my PhD, I realized that although psychologists are taught numerous theories of psychology, we are not taught how to do therapy. And as a result, I began taking notes concerning the categories my clients' problems fell into. I found that all my clients had one or more of 5 problems. They tried to control something they couldn't. They didn't take personal responsibility for themselves or too much for other people. They didn't face reality. They made emotional rather than well thought out cognitive decisions, or they led a disorganized lifestyle. And after thinking about what the results of not having these problems would be, I realized that mature adults would be able to think for themselves, be comfortable with emotional separation, which is to resolve codependency,
Right.
be comfortable with agreeing to disagree with other people, and be able to develop their own philosophy of life based on as much facts and research that are available at the time we are in the world.
You know, it's interesting because up to that point, a lot of times people would go into therapy and they would expect pharmaceuticals, they would expect something like that to get them through. And you really are bringing, from what you're describing there, really a holistic approach to this.
It really is, yes. Therapy with me, what I found out was that most people go to therapy between ages of 30 and 40, which is in midlife, because their life isn't working. They've tried everything to fix it. Nothing is working, and they're willing to try anything to feel better. The truth is that therapy is the best place to find out what we have been doing that doesn't work. Psychological maturity and educational methods for its achievement can be learned to help arrive at more successful life choices.
You know, judging on your success, maybe you shouldn't go into psychology until you're between 30 and 40, so you have those experiences to draw on. Our guest on the program is Dr. Skipi Smoot. The book is called Maturation, The Adult Paradigm, The Missing Link for Resolution of Anxiety. The book is available at Amazon all across the country. You can go to our website, thisweekinamerica.us, and link on with Dr. Smoot's website and get that information. And you can go to the doctor's website. That's Skipi, Skipi, L.Smoot, Smoot, PhD.com, Skipi L.Smoot, PhD.com. So we're talking about psychological maturation, the missing link. Talk a little bit about exactly what that is.
I certainly will be delighted to do that. Psychology's best kept secret is the missing link. And unfortunately, excuse me, many people incorrectly believe that therapy is only for the mentally ill. Such a conclusion could not be farther from the truth. Contrary to popular opinion, 80% of human pain and dysfunction falls on the continuum of immaturity versus maturity, not pathology and wellness. And it can be helped or alleviated simply by learning to think about our problems differently. Psychological maturation is a usually disregarded but essential missing link to human happiness and successful problem solving. And it is essential to realize that no agreed upon definition of normal adult behavior currently exists. Most perception of normal thinking and behavior include the concepts of typical, socially conforming, responsible behavior, but those identified as responsible, high-functioning people do not always exhibit typical, common, or even socially approved attitudes and behaviors. And for example, Martin Luther King's behavior could not be identified as normal, conforming, or typical. So part of coming to therapy with me is like taking a course in psychology. Not only do I help people learn to take care of themselves, but to understand what psychology has to say about human behavior.
Well, and it's interesting because you're saying if we try to fit into this category, this very narrow category that we've defined as normal, there really is no such thing.
There isn't. No, there isn't. It depends on what causes the problems. Most people do what they're told. The source of the problem for almost everybody, at the core of adult psychological immaturity, is an emotionally disabling inability to feel and behave as an independent, emotionally separate person. Many of such problems come from the shoulds and oughts, black and white thinking we learned in our family of origin, from authority figures, from respected friends, from our teachers, our church, etc. And at any time in our life, our problems are the direct result of any decisions we have made or allowed others to make on our behalf. Now, this doesn't mean that we're wrong about what we think. It just means that we do not have the right to force other people to agree with us. We have to learn to be comfortable being emotionally separate from other people.
That's an interesting concept, and I do want to mention some people are hesitant and they're thinking, I would go get some help and get some therapy and talk to someone, but they really aren't going to understand me. Everything is like textbook. In your case, you went through a lot of mental anguish along the way, and you know what personal hardship is.
I certainly do, yes. People who come to me for therapy, especially people over 30, 35 years old, realize that I can walk in their shoes. I'm not the kind of therapist who just sits there and says, what do you think about that, or something like that. I will share certain things with my clients if I feel that will be beneficial to them. For instance, if a client comes in and they have they're unhappy with their marriage. I will try to help my client understand the reasons why their marriage is unhappy. If because I've been there, done that, so to speak. Everybody doesn't think the same thing, of course. I think that we need to understand who we are as a real person. And I know that we hide our real self behind masks of anxiety in attempts to avoid the twin reality of human differences and the necessity for healthy emotional separation. Our personality can be defined as the exhibition of characteristics that we have developed to shield ourselves from pain. And our current relationships are all often chosen from those at the same level of development as we are, and contain aspects of emotional dysfunction from the past which have not been successfully resolved. Codependency, I think, is one of the most important things of psychological problems for almost all of us. It's called symbiotic attachment. And at the excessive dependency on others is at the core of most relationship dysfunctions. And while inability to tell where we stop and others begin is normal in childhood, mature adults require the ability to think and feel comfortable being a separate person. Interdependency is a psychological issue that is very important as well. Interdependency is what happens in a happy marriage because each person can be separate. The ability to be a real self in a relationship with another real self is called interdependence. A truly mature adult has developed the ability to be comfortable being their real self with another person who is also comfortable being their real self. So the basic rule in mature relationships is that no one has the right to get their needs met at the legitimate expense of another. Therefore, you don't always have to agree with each other. You can agree to disagree with each other and still love each other and respect each other. The expense of, you don't have the right, you don't have the right to get your needs met at the legitimate expense of another person. In other words, take advantage of others. No, you don't have the right to do that.
The book is called Maturation, The Adult Paradigm, the Missing Link for Resolution of Anxiety. Our guest on This Week in America is Dr. Skipi Smoot. The book is available at Amazon. Information at our website, which is very simple. It's Skipi L.Smoot, PhD.com. Information at our website, of course, thisweekinamerica.us. You can log on and link on to Dr. Smoot's website and get information there as well. I'm rapidly running out of time, and we will have to do more than one program. It's an interesting topic and a lot to discuss. How do we know if we are interdependent? I'm guessing, and as I'm reading the book, it maybe isn't necessarily an overnight thing, but this is sort of something that evolves in a relationship. How do we know we're to the point where we're at risk here?
Usually, we marry people because we are chemically attracted to people. But after a few years, we realize that there's more to being in love than just chemical attraction. And we have to just figure out what we have in common. And we need to realize that we're born, as a human being, we are born with a mission to explore our own path. Most of us begin our journey dancing with abandon to intense emotional rhythm, and only later, often in great pain, do some of us recognize the outstretched hand of reality and learn to dance to the music of the universe, which is the laws of cause and effect. We must realize that in order to understand our problem, we must realize that anxiety and depression is a sign of subconscious conflicts to be resolved for the process of psychological development to successfully continue. Most anxiety, depression, and problems with others can be helped or even eliminated by learning to think about our problems differently. Remember, just because we learn something from an authority figure doesn't mean what we have been taught is correct, based on fact, or even the truth. Psychological maturation is the missing link for functional resolution of anxiety and the development of mature relationships with others. It is a stage of development resulting from the ability to face objective reality and accept the truth of cause and effect. Development of psychological maturity results in the ability to think for ourselves, accept the truth, tolerate frustration, delay gratification, and live up to our inborn unique potential.
Dr. Skipi Smoot, our guest on the program. Just a couple minutes left in the show. The book is called Maturation, the Adult Paradigm, the Missing Link for Resolution of Anxiety. It's an excellent book. It's available all across the country. You can go to Amazon and get information on it. You can go to the doctor's website at Skipi L.Smoot, PhD.com to get more information, and information at our website, thisweekinamerica.us. Doctor, a couple minutes left in the program. Let's go back and again talk about the 5 lessons of life. Just sort of briefly recap those for us, and maybe all of us can sort of see how we fit into these, into the lessons you're going to talk about. What are the 5 lessons of life?
The 5 lessons of life are definitely connected with the 4 tasks of development. The 5 lessons of life are: we cannot control anything or anyone but ourselves. A lot of people don't realize that. We are personally responsible for ourselves, but we are not responsible for taking care of other people, because as children, we need to help our children learn to take personal responsibility for themselves, but everyone needs to learn to do it for themselves. We have got to face the reality of our situation and accept the reality, whether it is a problem for us or not. In my own life, accepting the reality of the death of 4 of my 5 children was a terrible, terrible burden. We need to learn to make well thought out decisions versus making emotional decisions. And we need to make the well thought out decisions based on what is best for ourselves and others in the long run, not the short-term emotional fixes. And we have to learn to lead a balanced lifestyle. In other words, we cannot take drugs, we can't stay up all night, we can't work all day. We have to lead a balanced lifestyle so that we get our own needs met. We need to learn to live up to our own potential and encourage others to do the same.
We have so much more to talk about on our next program, and I got a minute left here. I want to talk about thought-out decisions and emotional decisions. Is that an area where a lot of us get into trouble because we jump real quickly and make it emotional? A lot of times after a decision is made, you go back maybe a day or 2 later and you second guess yourself. That's probably a sign, an inner sign that, you moved a little too quickly on that.
Yes, a lot of people definitely make emotional decisions because they don't want to make a mistake, or because they might do what somebody tells them to do. Like a codependent person will do what somebody tells them to do, not because they want to, but because they're afraid that person will abandon them if they don't do what they're told. Then there are other people that are very bossy and just assume that everybody should live by their rules, and because they're right, they've been taught that these are the correct rules, and they may be fine for that person, but it doesn't mean that they work for everyone. So people definitely get most of their problem in relationships by dancing to, I call it the music of the rock and roll, which is the emotion. We need to learn to dance to the music of the minuet, which is the well thought out cognitive decisions.
A little slower and you think it through better. That we'll leave the program on that note. The book is called Maturation, the Adult Paradigm, the Missing Link for Resolution of Anxiety. Dr. Skipi Smoot has been our guest on the program. The book is available at Amazon. Information at our website, thisweekinamerica.us, and of course information at the doctor's website. That's Skipi, Skipi L.Smoot, Smoot, PhD.com, Skipi L.Smoot, PhD.com. Dr. Smoot, great having you on the program. Look forward to having you back, and thank you for sharing some time with us today.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I have loved being here.
We'll have you back on the program and look forward to it. Again, the book is Maturation, the Adult Paradigm. You're listening to This Week in America, website thisweekinamerica.us.